You start the iTutor Paperless application by going to apply.itutorworld.com.au. Throughout the process, you'll see that there are red asterisks next to the fields that are mandatory. You won't be allowed to move on to the next form until every section with a red asterisk has been completed. Even if you try, the system will stop and it'll show you where you have to correct your errors. At any time during the application, there is a Save and Continue Later button on each page right at the bottom. If you click this, it takes you to another page, which you'll see here, where you can enter in your email address and you will be emailed a link to go back to that form in the next 30 days to complete your application. The first tab of the form is the Privacy Collection section. You'll see here there is a new question right at the top. Do you or your partner require an interpreter? This must be answered. You then move on to two tick boxes. The first, the client agreeing that the application will be done online and that their signature would be captured electronically. They then need to agree to receiving electronic communications from iTutor. If you scroll down through the body of the form, the content has not changed from the paper version that you're currently using. Right at the bottom, there's an area for the applicant one to sign and put their name and email. If there is a second applicant, you can choose yes and a second section will open up. We can now move on to the second tab, which is Apply Basics. We're looking here for the main applicant and second applicant, if there is one, their details. Further down in the middle of the screen, you will see there's a new section where we can now upload the supporting documents. If you click Browse, you can choose a photo already in your device's camera roll or take another photo. Further down, we're looking for 3 years worth of residential history. If you do put in less than 3 years, a second section will open up for you to put in the rest of the 3 years. Once you've finished, just press Employment at the bottom. We can now move on to the second part of Apply, which is employment. We just need here 3 years worth of employment history. If the current job is less than 3 years, a second part will open up. Below this, we need to put in their net income per pay period, and they can choose the pay period above that they want to report by. At the bottom, click Current Obligations. We can now move into the third section of Apply, which is Current Obligations. A few things have changed here in regards to the layout, which I'll go through now. First question is, do you have any credit cards? If you select no, you can move on to the next question. If you select yes, it opens up an area for you to put in your credit cards. If you scroll down, you can enter in car details and whether it is financed or not. If it is financed, more section will open up so that you can put the information in there. Monthly living expenses is the same as normal. And a new question here is the total number of dependents in the household, which must be answered. The last question on the page is, do you have any other liabilities? If you choose no, you can go on to references. If you choose yes, you can put in any other liabilities not listed anywhere else on the form. Once complete, you can move on to references. We can now move on to Apply References, where we're looking for 2 references not living with the main applicant and not living with each other. We then look at the final checks that we've always asked about being Australian citizens or permanent residents and being bankrupt. At the bottom, we ask for another electronic signature and we press submit. Once submitted, this whole apply section with the attached PDFs will be emailed to the main applicant and any secondary applicant. We can now move along to the third tab, which is subscribe. The first section underneath this is the subscription agreement. First, we ask for the applicant's name and address again, and whether there's a second applicant. We then go into the details of the subscription, what programs they want, what the term of the agreement is, and what the payment amount is. We then ask details about the children, how many are there, what are their names and ages. An important part here is the note about the 10-day cooling off period. Straight underneath this is a tick box to make sure that the client understands the above information about the cancellation. We then look for the applicant's signatures and also the signature of the advisor and your name. Underneath your name, you'll see that there's a drop-down box for you to choose what organisation or distributorship you work through. You can then go to next. We now move on to payment authority and acknowledgements. The first tick box is to say that they have read and agreed to the paragraph above about the actual agreement that they're entering into. The second tick box is that they agree to the exception fees and charges. The third tick box is that they understand what happens if they default on their payments. We then ask them to signature all of these, to initial all of this. And then initial again, acknowledgement of receipts of terms and conditions. Further down is where we look at how they're going to pay. They can choose by either debit or credit card or direct debit. Whichever they choose will bring down a drop-down menu for the information to be added in. They can then choose to pay us weekly, fortnightly or monthly, and they must sign as the account holder. You can then press submit. We can now move on to the fourth and final tab of the forms, which is finishing up. This is an addition to what you're currently doing for your application, so please ensure that you have read each one of these tick boxes that the client needs to agree to and sign at the bottom. This has been added for compliance reasons and just to ensure that the client is aware of exactly what they are entering into.